Hi, Alex here from Rebeloper.com and welcome to this course on how to make your app go viral. And this is an updated version of the course, and in these following lessons you will learn how to make your app go viral with the help of Firebase app invites. Because, as you might have already known, deep linking has been deprecated for Facebook. So we are updating the course from Facebook app invites to Firebase app invites. So without further ado, let's get to work. Okay, so let us just create a new Xcode project from scratch. And before we do that, actually, let me just show you what you will be building out today. Okay, let's open up our Xcode, and here I have created a Firebase app invites testing project. Of course that I already did that. So let's build and run this. Don't peek just yet. For the code, we will go through everything in just a few minutes. I believe it shouldn't take longer than an hour or so. So let's open up our simulator and let's wait for it to build and run. So before we dive and test out our app, let me just say that you really need to have a Firebase account already set up, and you should be able to create new apps in iTunes Connect. So that is what you need. Okay, and it is building. Let us just sign out for now. I already signed in. So this is what you will be presented with, a simple sign in button, because for Firebase app invites to work, you will need to implement Google sign in. So only Google signed in users will be able to share your app with app invites. So let us just sign in. Let's hit continue here. We will go through the details in a minute now. Let me just choose my account here, and we are in. Of course, we can sign out. We will do that in just a moment. Let us just send an invite here, and let me just type in here the rebeloper@gmail.com. Of course, this is the email address that I have signed in with, but it should get the app invite anyway. So here we have a try this out, and Alex Knight is the account name that I am signed in with this app, and let's hit send. Okay, let's wait for it. Yeah, and here it is down in the log. 1 invite sent. Of course, you may choose more. Time to give you some coins, because it is advisable to incentivize the app invites shares with giving some coins to your users. Okay, and finally, let us just sign out. You already saw this, and we are signed out of the app. And that is what we are going to build out today. Okay, let's stop this and let us just start with a brand new project. I will just minimize this here in case I need to take a sneak peek to the original code, but we are going to create a new project. So go to File, New, and a Project. Okay, select Single View Application. If you are using this for your SpriteKit games, go ahead and take a look at the videos explaining how to create all of this in a SpriteKit game down below in the Facebook app invite section. So you will learn how to create a SpriteKit button. I named it, I believe, RB button, that is Rebeloper button. For a SpriteKit game, and so on. So for the interface, go ahead and take a look at the videos down below referring to SpriteKit elements. Okay, so we are going to use a single view application. Click on next. I will name this. Okay, language should be, of course, Swift. And let's click on next here, and I will create a Git repository on my Mac because I want to upload it in a private GitHub repository. Okay, desktop will be fine for now. Let's hit create. And we are off. Okay, and what is the first thing I like to do when we start a brand new project? That is, I get rid of the storyboard. So right click on it, or maybe double tap with your finger like so. And let's click on the delete here, and let's move to trash. Of course, in the general section of our target, delete main interface, the main storyboard from the main interface section. Okay, and that should be it. Okay, and before we move forward, I would like to show you how you can actually make this bundle identifier appear in your developer account, because for now, of course, it has signed automatically and it has added the theme that we have provided and created a provisioning profile and a signing certificate. But the app ID in your developer account, if you just go there now and you want to check, it hasn't been created automatically by Xcode. Of course, if Xcode is updated with this feature, then it will be. But for now, we need to, well, force this to happen. So for that, go to capabilities and enable something like in-app purchases. In-app purchases always works. So enable it. Let's wait for it just a second. Add the in-app purchase feature to your app ID. Now it is set, and turn it off. Now you should be able to see your in-app ID in the developer account, and we will come back to this later on when we will need this app ID and the prefix and so on. So when we get there, we will talk about that. So that is about the bundle identifier. And now let's just go to our app delegate and create our window and add our view controller as the root view controller to this window. So in your application did finish launching with options, just type in window equals UI window, and let's make this key and visible. So window dot make key and visible. And now let's construct our view controller. So let VC or view controller, and it will be our already created view controller from the template that Xcode gave us. And now let us just set our Windows root view controller by typing in window dot root view controller equals and VC. Okay, and just to test it out, I would just go into the viewDidLoad function of our view controller and set the view's background color. Let's set this to, let's say, dot red. It will be a plain old red background color. And this should work. As you can see, build has succeeded. And now let's wait, well, maybe not iPhone 8 Plus. I really like the iPhone 10 simulator, so let's build and run again. Build has succeeded, and now we should see a red background, and yay, we do see that. Okay, now what should we add for this red background? Well, this view controller. Now this is, let's say, the main interface of your app. This is not the sign-in panel, sign-in view controller that we want to show if the user is not signed in. So here we will add two buttons, sign out button and invite friends or send invites a button. But that we will do when we are going to import the Google sign-in frameworks. So that is it for now. What do we need to have? Let us just set this to white. And what else? Well, we need to create the sign-in view controller. So let's right click on this Firebase app invites example group, and let's create a new file. It will be a Swift file. Click on next. And let's create a class here. I will import here UI kit, and class, it will be sign in view controller. and it will be a UI view controller. And of course, we should just simply copy and paste these two functions that are already in our view controller Swift file. So that is that. And if we just chose to show the sign-in view controller first, then we should have this. Now I'll change this to purple, so we may see the differences between the two view controllers. Okay, and that should be it for this fine first steps in our app. Next up is to, well, actually add the Firebase SDKs that we need. Okay, and we are going to do that with CocoaPods. Let's just minimize this, and let me just close all of these. So let's open up a Google Chrome and go to your Firebase console. So firebase.google.com, and of course log in, and let's just go to our console by clicking the Go to Console button, and let's create a new project. Okay, the project name be, okay, country, region, you select your region. I said we select United States. Create our project by pressing that button, and we are creating our project on the Firebase's backend. So it shouldn't take more than a few seconds depending on your internet speed. So we are perfect and ready to go. Let's hit on continue, and we are inside our Firebase App Invites example projects dashboard. Now we will create an iOS app. So let's add a Firebase iOS app to our project, and we need to specify our bundle ID. So let's copy that out. This is for the testing, and this is our bundle identifier. So I will copy this out. Let's go back to Google Chrome and paste that in there. Okay, app nickname, App Store ID, well, it is optional, but we will add it just a little bit later on. So for now, you can leave App Store ID as open. So let's register our app. Okay, we may download the Google Service info plist file, but we will not do this because we still need to set some things up. Okay, so we just hit continue here, and now it says we need to add our pod files through CocoaPods. So we will just do that, and I'll just take a sneak peek. What pods do we actually need? So I go to this pod file of our example. So we need core, we need invites, auth, Google sign-in, and LBTA components. Now, of course, we need core invites and auth because we are using Firebase invites and we need to sign in with Firebase. But because invites actually requires Google sign-in, we need to add that too. And LBTA components is just a neat and handy helper for UI view placement on our view controller. I already have a very detailed playlist, a set of videos on YouTube, so go ahead and check that out if you don't know what LBTA components look like. Okay, now I will just copy this out, and first of all, let us just create a pod file for our project. Let me just minimize this and open up terminal. Okay. Let's navigate to our root folder of the project by typing in cd and the space, and let's open up Finder, because I would just simply drag and drop the root folder into my terminal. So it should be here somewhere, Firebase App Invites example. Here it is. Just simply drag and drop. There we go. Hit return. And we are inside the root folder. And now let us just type in pod in it. So we create our pod file, and I will just make this maybe a little bigger so you may see it. Okay, so CDs and space, and now pod in it. Okay, let's hit return. And there you go. We have created our pod file. Now we need to add those pods that I have just copied out to this pod file. So I will just drag and drop it and open it with Xcode. So just drop it on the icon and it will open it with Xcode. Okay, now just go inside there and on line 2, just comment this out, well, comment it in if you prefer, and set it to iOS version 11 because LBTA components requires iOS version 11. Okay, let's paste that in and maybe give it a save here and close it out. Go back to terminal. And I will just open Finder here too, so you may see what happens. Okay, and now we need to install it. Pod install. Pretty straightforward. Okay, hit return. It is downloading and installing all the dependencies. And as you can see, a pods folder has been created already, and we will see in just a moment that a new Xcode workspace will be created with the Firebase app invites example name. Let's just wait for that. From now on, we will be opening our project with this new file. So let us just wait for it. Maybe sip a little water here. Of course, you see that more dependencies have been installed. This is perfectly fine because these pods are, well, sub-pods that are needed for Firebase. Okay, you should get this message, pod installation complete. There are 5 dependencies from the pod file and 15 total pods installed. So now let's go back to our Xcode project, and what you need to do is actually close that Xcode project because it was opened with this Xcode project, and now we need to open this one, Xcode workspace. Okay, let's see, here are the pods, here is my pod file, great. And now let me just open our Firebase app invites example group, and here you will see that everything compiles correctly. Let me just build and run again and see if that is the case. And if we do get a red view, then that is the case. Okay, as you can see, we have a white background, and that is what we need here. Great. Okay, one last thing, and we will wrap this video up with that. We need to set up our Google info.plist file, Google service info.plist file. So let's go back to our Google Chrome here and let's hit continue. And of course, before we do that, let's import Firebase here. Just a quick import here. Let's go to our app delegate. Let's import Firebase and let's configure. Okay, and this needs to be added to the application did finish launching with options. Okay, and I will add it here before we set up our window and its root view control. Okay, let's hit finish and we are in. Now, App Invites is built upon deep linking, so what we need to do next is enable dynamic links. So let's click here on dynamic links and let's click on get started. As you can see, don't have your universal dynamic link set up just yet, so let's get started. And here we go. We already created our dynamic link. Okay. Next up is that we need to go to our project settings, and here you will find your Google service info.plist file. But before we download it, so we can download it by clicking on this button, we need to add our App Store ID and our App ID prefix. So what is exactly our App Store ID? Well, our App Store ID is the ID that is provided when you create your app in iTunes Connect. So let us just open iTunes Connect. Let's just log in. And this is why I have already created our app ID, because when you create your app in iTunes Connect, you really need that app ID. So let's go here and type in our password. And now select My Apps. And let's create a new one by clicking on the plus sign. Let's set a new app. And now let's see first if we do have our bundle ID. And it should be here somewhere. I have a lot of apps, and let me just scroll through them. Here it is. Okay, and it will be an iOS app. The name will be primary language, English US is fine. And the SKU, I prefer adding the SKU as the name of the app. Of course, we need to delete these spaces. Let's hit create. And it should be created if your app name isn't taken already. So here, under the app information, you have your Apple ID. So let's just copy this out and add it to the App Store ID. Okay. Here we go, paste that in and click on Save. Now, one thing left is this app ID prefix. Now, the prefix can be found on the developer side of the Apple's Developer Center. So go to developer.apple.com and click on Account here. And then go to Certificate IDs and profiles and select your app IDs and now search for your created app ID. So Firebase. Oh, it haven't already been created. That is not good. Yeah, it is only for the testing. So let me just go ahead and automatically manage signing. Let's enable. Let's select our theme here. And again, go to capabilities, enable in-app purchases. Well, maybe Game Center too. Where is Game Center? Here it is. And let's see if we do get, let's refresh these app IDs. I'm not quite sure why it wasn't already added there. Well, I guess we just need to wait a little more, but the other way to get the ID prefix is to go back to your account and then go to membership, and here you have your team ID. Okay, so let's just copy that out and paste it in here. After a while, that app ID will be visible in the developer account, but for now, this is fairly enough. So let's just download the Google Service info plist file. Okay, let's wait for that. It is downloaded, and now simply just drag and drop it into your project. Okay, I will just add it right at the top. Make sure copy items if needed is checked, and your target is checked. Let's click on Finish, and I will just turn these off for now. And as you can see, I have already downloaded a lot of plist files, and if you are a developer, you most probably did yourself. What you need to do is just delete this suffix, okay? And let it be Google Service info.plist file. And as you can see here, the app invite enabled is set to yes. This is the most important part. And of course, we will talk about the client ID and the reversed client ID in the next videos. So that is it for now. You have added the Firebase app invites SDK, well, all the needed pods, and you have set up the basic structure of our app. So in the next video, we are going to start implementing the code 4 app invites. So it is going to be an exciting video, and I will see you in the next one. Hi, Alex here from Redeveloper.com, and welcome back to the course where you will learn how to implement Firebase app invites into your projects. So we left off by adding our pod files that are needed from Firebase, and we created and set up and added our Google service info.plist file. Now it's time to do some coding, okay? And the best part is that Firebase, well, has some sort of good documentation. We will go through that, but it has a documentation at all. So we will just choose this path. And if you just go to, let's open up a new Firebase project here. Well, not project, a new document here. So let's go to Docs. And select Guides, and just scroll down here till you see App Invites, and open that up and select iOS. And here you can, of course, read a little bit more about App Invites, but it really paves out the steps what you need to do in order to implement Firebase App Invites. But there are some tweaks that there aren't in there, so that is why you are watching this course. So before you begin, first step, if you haven't yet connected your Firebase project, do so from the Firebase console. We have already done that. If you haven't yet enabled Firebase dynamic links, do so from the Firebase console. We have done that already. Okay, now it's time to add Firebase to your iOS project. We have done that too, and of course we have imported Firebase and launched and configured the Firebase library with Firebase app.configure. Next step is in Xcode, edit your project's info.plist file, and most importantly the context usage description, and that is needed because App Invites uses your users' contacts. So they need to agree to share their contacts with your app. So, and I will just show this here. So select your target, go to Info, and hover over some names here, and you will see this plus button. So click on that. And let me just go ahead and take a look. So context usage description, and that is part of the privacy. So with a capital, start typing in with the capital P, hit return there, and type in some kind of value like, or whatever suits your specific app. Okay. What is up next? Number 6, eliminated. Implement Google sign-in into your app. As I mentioned earlier, you need to have a signed-in user with the Google sign-in method. So let's open this in another tab and let's go through that step by step. Okay, we have added our Google sign-in pod, that is already there. We have connected our app to Firebase console. And now let's enable Google Sign-in in the Firebase console. So what we need to do now is go back to your project and select authentication. Okay, and under users, click on the setup sign-in method button. And here you will have your options. What we need to enable is this Google. So it's currently disabled. What we need to do is enable it. So click on that. Scroll down and let's click on Save. Okay, everything seems to be okay. As you can see, it is enabled. Okay, now what is up next? Okay, import the required header files. So we need Firebase And this needs to be added into our app delegate and into our sign-in view controller. So let me just copy this out. Well, both of them need to be imported. So let's go back to Xcode. And first of all, let's add this to our app delegate. Paste that in there. And next up is our sign-in view controller. So let's add those two there. Okay. Now let's implement Google sign-in. Okay, we need to make some steps. First of all, add custom URL schemes to your Xcode project. Okay, of course, you may read through all of this if you want to. I will just show you what you need to do. So let's go into our Google. I believe we need our reverse client ID. Yeah. Let's go to our Google service info plist file, and you will have this reverse client ID. And copy the value out. Okay. Select your project, then your target, and down here, if you hit info, you will have the URL types. Expand that and click on the plus button. And under URL schemes, just paste that in there and you should be fine. Now this is the first step. Next up is in app delegate Swift, let's declare our GID sign-in delegate. So I just simply copy this out, go to the app delegate and paste that in there. Okay, next up, we need to configure Firebase. That has already been done. And now let us just start, add our client ID and set the delegate to self on our GID sign-in. Okay, let's go back to Xcode and paste that in there. Okay, everything seems to be okay. Of course, we need to add some more functions, the delegate functions. We will add them in just a moment. So, first of all, on iOS 9, we need to add this one. Nothing too fancy, just copying and pasting there. Okay, next up, for your app to run on iOS 8 and older, you need to implement this one. So copy that out and paste it into that. Okay, what is next? In the app delegate, implement the GID sign-in delegate protocol. And this is where that error will go away. So let me just select here Swift and copy this out. Okay, and let's go back to Xcode and paste this in there. And the error should go away. Yeah, it went away. And here we have an unused value. So I just simply print out here the error. So print error, and the credential will be used just later on. Okay. What is next? Now, let us declare that sign-in views controller implements the GID sign-in UI delegate. And this is important because we are using this signing UI to show the standard sign-in to Google with Google button. Okay, and let's copy this out and let's go to our sign-in view controller and add this to our class. Of course, we need to add our next up. We need to copy this out. Well, I will not add this UI delegate. Yeah. Let's just copy and I will show you what we are going to do. Okay, here we go. Well, what this does is that it asks upon this view did load that we sign in. We don't want to use that because we want to add actually a button. So what we need is to create a button. So okay, and let's create this here. Of course, you can customize this button, and here we have configured the sign-in button look and feel. Go ahead and take a look at the documentation, how you can do that. We will not cover this at this time. Okay, so there you can do that. And I just comment this out because we will, the GID sign-in button already takes care of this signing in and once it is tabbed. So what we need to do is set up views. We will create this function down below. So let me just add this here and give you some room so you may see. So first of all, we need to add this button to the view. So view, add subview and sign in a button, and then we need to anchor it to the center of our view, and we will use LBTA components to do that. So I will just import LBTA components, and it has a handy anchoring convenience method, sign in button, anchor center super view, and that is it. Okay, I would like to just test it out and see if this button already is on the view. So what we need to do first is go to app delegate and just scroll up, and for the VC, the view controller, I will set for now sign in view controller. So the sign in view controller just pops up at the first launch. Okay, let's wait for that. Here we go. Here we have our sign in button. Pretty good. Now let us just continue. Let's go back here and there we go. Yeah, we need to authenticate with Firebase because of course we are using Firebase to sign in. Okay, and let's add this button. Let's copy this out. Let's go to app delegate, I believe. Let me just double check. Let's just scroll down and add it here. And of course, here we just print out the errors so we don't get that nasty warning. I don't like warnings. Okay. Finally, authenticate with Firebase using the credential. Okay. And let us just copy this out. And I believe there is an extra parentheses here, but we will see. Okay, let's go back to Xcode and you should put this here. Okay, let's delete this extra parentheses. And user is signed in. So let's print out here. Okay, I believe this is a duplicate, so I will just delete this one. I believe that you have already noticed this. Let's hit Command B so we build this. There are a number of errors. Invalid read declaration. Let's just go back just a little bit. Yep. We don't need to delete this did disconnect with. We need to delete the did sign in for. So that should be straightforward. Let's hit Command B and we are ready to go. Let's print out our error here. Okay, let's hit build again. Build has succeeded. Good stuff. Okay, what is up next? And I believe we will wrap this video with this one. And that is, after a user signs in for the first time, a new user account is created. Okay, yeah, we need to sign out. And for that, we are going to create a new button, but that will be in the other view controller. And I believe we are good for this video. In the next ones, we are going to continue building up our Google sign in. Okay, I will see you in the next one. Hi, Alex here from Redeveloper.com and welcome back to this course on how to implement Firebase app invites. and we are going to take it from where we left off in the previous lesson, and that is we have already signed in. Now we need to sign out, and there is a little bit of logic on how to handle this. Well, basically what we are trying to build out is that we have here our view controller, and that is our main app. So this is where we will add two buttons, the sign out button and the invite friends or send invites button, whatever you like. And this should be presented whenever our user logs in or is already logged in with a Google sign in. If not, then we need to present this sign in view controller automatically, where the user, of course, can sign in. And we have already added here our sign in button. So what should we do next? Well, first of all, we need to check. First of all, let us just go back to app delegate, scroll up there, and let the Windows root view controller be our view controller, because that is how we want to do it. That is how it should be. Now, once the root view controller is loaded, we want to check if the user is signed in. And we are checking against the Firebase's auth. And this is how we do that. So first of all, we are not checking in the view did load. We want to check in the view will appear. Okay, and let's type in super.view will appear animated true. And that is because we don't want to wait till the view actually loads. We want to check before that. So let's create a function here, check. And I will add this function down below here. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we are going to check it with auth. So what we need to import here is Firebase. Okay, so if auth current user equals nil, then we need to present the sign-in view controller and return. And I will show you in just a minute why we want to return altogether. So first of all, let view controller equals sign-in view controller, and then present view controller, and that is the VC animated. Let's make it true so we actually see. Well, you should actually set it to false, but I will leave it to true now that it is much more engaging. And completion nil. And now let's hit return. So we are not signed in. Check is signed in. First of all, let's launch the app without this checking. So let's hit build and run there. And that's it. Only this white backgroundish screen appears. Now let's stop and let's check if somebody signed in. So let's build and run again. And then now we should get a nil for the current user, and our sign-in view controller should be presented. And what is wrong? Let me just double check the logs. Yes. Now, we have a problem here. As you can see, and now I remember I wanted to show you this on purpose. We have here warning attempt to present a sign-in view controller on view controller whose view is not in the window hierarchy. Now this kind of sounds strange if you don't know what you're doing. The idea is that when we check for the current user, we are going on a background thread. Now the sign-in view controller and every UI modification needs to be made on the main thread. So what we need to do here is call dispatch queue.main.async and type in here our code. Okay, let's copy that out and let's build and run again. Oh, and we need to add here self because we are in a completion handler. Build has succeeded, and hopefully now we should see the sign-in view controller pop up. There we go. Okay, one last thing, just to refactor this code, because we will use this sign-in view controller pop-up later on. I just create here a function, and I just simply copy all of this out. Well, cut this out and paste it in there, and controller with two L's here, and add it there. Here we go. Okay, great. Now we have checked if the user is signed in. Well, if the user is already signed in, we are going to, well, let's see what happens when on the other side, when we do sign in. And that is done in the sign-in view controller, but the delegate is inside the apps delegates GID sign-in delegate. And let me just scroll down here, and as you can see, user is signed in, and we are going to use notification center here. And because it has a long name, I just simply copy this out. Let me just go here, select app delegate. Here it is, notification center default post, and user is signed in, so we are creating a notification name. So I just copy this out. Let's just print that here. Okay, so now we are posting a notification, but we are posting it because the changes need to be made in the sign-in view controller. More specifically, we need to dismiss this sign-in view controller. So first of all, we need to set an observer for our notification. So I just copy this again. It's kind of a long one, so here it is, notification center default, add observer on self. The selector will be handle user sign in method that I will create just later on, and there is the notification name. Okay, here we go. Let's go into the sign in view controller and let's create our notification. Okay, here we are setting the selector handle user sign in, and this needs to be an Objective-C function because it is inside the selector. So I will just create this here and paste the name there, and we will simply just dismiss animated true and with the completion of a nil, and that should fix it. And now when we are signed in, this sign-in view controller should go away. So let's build and run and test this out. So what it does is first it checks if we are inside. If we do have a current user, we don't have, so it is nil. And we present the sign-in view controller, and this should be here. Yeah, we are inside there. And inside the sign-in view controller, we are going to sign in. And in the app delegate, we will fire that notification, and we will dismiss this view controller. So let's hit on continue here. Let's select our account here to continue to project, and let me just take care of this right now. And I will just cancel this out. It's kind of an ugly name project and a bunch of numbers. So let's go back to Firebase and select project settings here. And here you'll have a public facing name. So let's delete this. And I will call this. And now let's just go back to our simulator and do this again. Click on sign in, let's hit continue, and now we should get the to continue to Firebase app invites example. It's a tiny small thing, but it's worth knowing. Okay, let's select our name, Alex, and we have dismissed the sign in view controller. Good stuff. Okay, now what we need here are two buttons, a sign out button and send invites button. So let's build those out. Okay, let's go to our view controller. Let's just stop this here. Okay, and now let's add our first button, the sign out button. It will be a plain old UI button. So we may get that fading in and fading out animation when we tap on the button. Now we want to return this button. Of course, we want to set a title for that because now then we wouldn't see anything. So button set title, and I will simply add here sign out. And the control state should be normal. Okay, and that is it. I believe that covers everything that needs to be, there is one thing, and we need to add a target. So add target, self here, and the action, again, a selector. As you can see, here we need to add an Objective-C method, and I will name this, and it should be touch up inside, as usual. So I just copy this out and create that function for you. At Objective-C, func, paste that name in, and here we go. Add those parentheses. Okay. Now we need to add this sign out button to our view. So after we check if the user is signed in, if we do have a current user, then we need to set up our view basically. So that is why we are returning if we don't have anything, because we don't need to set up our view if we present the sign-in view controller at all. So let's hit here, set up views, and just copy this out. And again, let's make some room here and add our function of setup views. Now, first of all, we need to add to our view, our subview, the sign out button. Okay, and we need to center it as we did with the sign in button. So sign in button, but first of all, we need to import LBTA components, so we may get that functionality. LBTA components, sign out button, anchor, center super view. Okay, and I will just build and run, so we see that we actually get our sign out button here. Okay, here we have sign out button, and it is tappable. Okay, next up, I will just add this send invites button. Okay, let me just go up here and create we want to set the title button, set title, and we want to name this send invites. Okay, for the control state, of course, normal. Okay, next up, we need to add a buttons title color. So set title color to be, let's say, .red, and for the control state of a normal. And what next? We need to add a target. Okay, so button, add target on self, and the action will be pound selector, touch up inside for the other thing. And now one thing that I want to add is the buttons title labels font equals to UI font and bold system font of size 16, and that should do it. Okay, and we will test this out in the next video, and we will continue. I am running out of time and we need to handle send invites button tab, but we will do that in the next video. So go ahead and click on the next one and I will see you building up this Firebase app invites example.